he's doing it now because we getting it started. But moving forward, I don't think he will be effective doing that or the program will flourish as much as necessary. I think the second result is that these families who we want to retain, who are a lot of professional families, they're looking for things for their kids to do, and their kids have to leave the community to do it. They got to go to Bedford or Twinsburg or so, and wherever else to get the program. Eventually, these parents are going to leave the community because why would I stay here when I am driving to South Euclid every day to have my son participate? They're building friends in South Euclid. I'm also going to move there, and I'm just using that as an example. But many parents have told me that they have to take the kids out of the city for their kids to play baseball, play football, to play sports, because we don't have anything for anybody prior to they getting to middle school. So strategically, these rec programs, regardless of what they are, will provide our parents who are looking for activities for their kids to do, for them to stay here. And the last thing is it'll help our team improve in more participation. So this is my vision for the restart of the rec center. Um, Basically, going to our community partners, asking them to collaborate with us and fund the rec director. And in that process, they fund the rec director. We form a committee, which the committee then is like the oversight committee. And then from there, the person will be housed in the district. Mr. Swift will monitor that person. So Mr. Swift will still be, as the athletic director, the person who, on every day that person will report to. But that committee would give recommendations and so forth. Again, this is the first stab at it, open to any recommendations or thoughts on how it can be improved. But I really would like to have this movement before the spring. Because the spring starts, that's when people start looking. Like even having a summer camp, we used to have a summer camp here. I think the elementary school and rec center is time for a summer camp. But we need somebody to manage this. And this proposal for the board, we already had the buildings open. We already had the cleaners there. There might be some Saturdays and Sundays that involved, but it's really just maximizing our facilities. And then having the cities involved, um, have them have a stake in it. I don't know what percentage each city, I know that Warrensville is the biggest, Island, North Randall, and I did meet with all three mayors. All three mayors were very, um, sounded like they were very supportive, but we haven't talked money. So at that point, we just talked ideas. But I would like to go to them with the money and then see where we are. So I'm open to any questions.
Will we ultimately run this through the board's attorney?
Yes, once I get the proposal and then I take it to the city, whatever the agreement will have to be voted on by council and the board. So that the city would have, we would have to have resolutions and agreements and all of that to make it official. Because I got the city have certain things to give money. We have to, it's an agreement. It's a three-way agreement that will have to go through the attorney. Four-way agreement.
When you throw the board in there, is that
For
what
the
you're
board,
saying?
it's four-way agreement.
Yeah.
Everybody going to vote on and approve.
I
So,
don't have any questions or I'm not going to say concerns, but I just feel like there's other things that we should be looking at. Um, so no, I think it's a great idea, but I personally would like some time to kind of mull over the different solutions and what your thoughts are, and maybe even meet with you at a later date about it.
Yeah, I like any feedback to strengthen the proposal because it's going to have to go to all, I have to present to all three different councils. And your thoughts and things, whatever strengthens it, I would love to feedback.
I just have, you answered one of the questions. The other question was well, how are we ensuring that there's no overlap with programs that are happening right now? I know, back in the day when we had the old rec center, it was everything, crochet, knit, whatever. And I know some of those arts and crafts,
At the senior center.
crafts or at the senior, but they are open to anybody.
So,
Except kids.
no, kids can't go to the senior center.
Oh,
So I think that would be part of the conversation on how the YMCA ties to us, to the rec center and the senior center. All of this has to work in concert together because the seniors offer certain things. Where the missing group is the parent group, there's nothing for them. Like the parents, active parents, there's no program for them if they don't go to the YMCA, and most of them don't go to the YMCA. So we got an open group of kids and our parents. You got the seniors that got a lot of activities. So it'll take a lot of coordination of developing what program parents they want. Because they're not getting it. They got to go to other places. So we'll find out what they want in there. Prayerfully, we'll go through this process, and if we get everybody to collaborate and agree, we just start off and see. I think the agreement should be a yearly agreement. If things not working, yeah, it stops. I mean, I don't want anything locked in that's not effective. But I think everybody knows this is something that's needed. It's just how to get there without getting a letter. That's the big thing. It's not going to get a letter.
I don't know. I just have a comment. And I just think that this is an excellent program. Coming out of elementary school, most of the small children doesn't have anything to follow. Nothing. So whatever we can offer, first of all, you got to look at it. You're going to build morale in small children. You're going to also push up your attendance rate because a lot of them are going to come because they want to play volleyball or they want to play softball. Another aspect of it, you want them to enjoy school, and that's just an extension of it. And we have an opportunity right now to offer that to our parents. And I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was a young parent and I saw a recreation, something for my children to do, I'm gonna jump on it. Because my thing is, most young kids, for some reason, when they get out of school, the first thing they do is go to video games. And I just don't like that. I want to give them an opportunity to do something else that's positive, that they can really build on. And this is something that I think we can build on. And Mr. John, like you said, after a year, if we don't have a lot of kids to participate in the well, we got to promote this.
Yeah.
You know, we got to get out there and promote it and encourage young parents to, we have this and these are the hours. We're not going to say 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We're going to say you can come from 4 to 6 and do something for your kids to really enjoy learning. And I'm thinking this is just an aspect of it. So I'm happy about it.
With the football, we had over like 150 kids participate with cheerleading and the football. Our central now is 54 for basketball, and then so I see karate. I see a whole bunch of different things come into play using our school. So I think it makes our city, our community, and our school district more marketable when we have extension programs that we used to have, and a lot of us moved here. Parents moved here because they existed. So just trying to be creative at this time where we're building new to just with the Roman growing, just get it now to keep it. Because I know that some of these parents are going to leave. They're gonna leave if we don't capture them. Because they want their kids to play sports. They want their kids to do stuff. Well, I know for them to do. Outside of that football and that base and that cheerleading, and not a basketball. So it all ties to the report card. It's tied to everything. We gotta maintain our family. So, any other questions?
Yeah, Superintendent Jai, I think it's a great program. I know when we were all raised up, we had something. Children like Miss Barbara said, they have anger issues, but it teaches them teamwork. I mean, I'm looking at the sports piece, but like Tracy said, we used to have knitting. I know Nevin did about 6 years ago. He taught parents about computers. And they called and they was like, oh, you guys got that program at Warrensville. It taught me how to use a computer. So when we have scholars and their parents don't know how to get on a computer, those are the things we have to track. I mean, you have now new young homeowners coming into Warrensville and North Randall and Highland Hills, and they have to have some. I mean, they do run to the Solons and the other districts like South Euclid. So we need to have something like that as a school district to actually retain our talent. I mean, a lot of people come through here, but it's just like they leave after ninth grade. They're not being a part of Warrensville, but it's a great program. I'm looking forward to what you put together. That's it. Thank you.
May I ask one more question? So I know this is just a concept right now. It's not truly a program. How do we get to the next step? I see on here you're talking about the joint committees. At what point, what do you need from the board? Feedback wise, I'm just trying to understand how this is going to progress.
So I did have a timeline, but I didn't put enough on here. The timeline to finalize the proposal, I was waiting to get parent input. So once I get that, I'll finalize the proposal. I'll send it to you guys for input. Once you give me the input, then I'll finalize it. It'll be final, and then I'll go present it to each council. And then once I get the council support, everybody says go, then we'll draft the agreement, have our lawyer draft it, whatever the partnership agreement. From there, I'll shoot that back to you to review. Then with your approval, we will have to approve it first. This board will approve it first.
Right.
And once it's approved by this board, then we'll send it to the city for their approval. And then from there, we'll just work it out. So all that will be part of the agreement. So from there, once we get all the approval, then we'll go from there. So the process, you'll get the proposal first, feedback from you, get the parents, and I'll finalize it once I get the parents' proposal. Then once I get your stuff, then I'll finalize it. Send it back to you for your review. Then once I get your blessing, then I'll move forward with the city. Then once I get their blessing, then we'll drop the agreement. And then that agreement then will be voted on by each municipality.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
All right, and then the last thing I just wanted to talk about is we are going to host the Hbcu Fair this year. There will be the COVID protocol, so you have to have a vaccination or a clean test within 72 hours. They're going to have when we went to Q, they're going to have the same setup where you have to register, you have to show your vaccination card or your clean test in order to get in. So that's a room that they have a meeting next week, so I had to go. But that was our requirement that everyone's vaccinated or not, or have a negative test. So I have more information after the meeting. The enrollment is going to limit to like 750. They're going to be spread out around the whole school. So they're going to use the second floor everything now, not just gyms. It won't be in a concentrated area. I think again, as we get back to normal, we make the adjustments to make sure that the protocols are met. I believe it's going to be a great event. And if something happens, we have a spike. Our cases have been going down. We haven't had as many cases in the last 3 weeks as we get to start school. So things are trending down. And we hope that this continues up until this event. And I wanted to talk about that because time is happening fast. You're going to hear a lot about it over the next few weeks. But that you're aware there is a COVID protocol in place for this event. The rest of my presentation we're going to take over. For my rest of my introductory both our presentations, they're going to finish. It's market structure updates is part of their presentation today.
All right.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Sure.
We do have presentations. We have a couple requests this evening. We're going to talk about some change orders and some demolition projects and GMPs that we have. And then we're also going to talk about where we are in the contingency for the middle school, high school. And we'll give an update for the schedule, and we have some construction photos. and feel free to ask questions as we go. Okay? There we go. So the first change order request we have this evening is for emergency site phones. Both of the change orders we're requesting tonight were bid while we were putting together the GMP as ad alternates, but we held off to make sure that we could get them into the project. We've been working with Infinity so that as the project progresses, that we can come to you timely to make sure that if we'd like to go ahead and proceed with those, that we have the contingency available and that we can also get ahead of the construction. So these change order, this is for $34,460. This is for 3 blue light emergency phones. These are the kinds that you see on the stanchions. They're freestanding, so someone can grab them. A blue light will come on. It'll go directly to the police. And we actually have them located, I'm not quite correct there, but we have them located between, we have the plaza between the school and the 50-yard line. So we have one there. We have one by the loading dock, and then we have one down by the middle school. As we designed the athletic field, we will have one over by the baseball field. So this is what these 3 are for.
Hey, I just want to comment on that. You know, now our key, it's going to be like a park, basically. So there'll be people there at night and we're not monitoring it. So that will give people opportunity. Because if you think, now if you come off, you're going to come off Warrensville Center Road, you're going to have those baseball fields, but it's going to be a big walkway going to the
Stadium.
So there's a good chance you're going to have people hanging out there. I would think.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be cameras, but there's no way we can lock it off. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah, we do have cameras on the building looking at all the different areas.
Yeah,
This is just an emergency situation.
Like, it'll be business there.
So anybody can pick up and call? Is that what I'm understanding at any
Yes,
time?
Cleveland State. Like, if you're at Cleveland State and they have these periodically places like.
Yeah, a lot of college campuses.
Yeah, like that. That's how it is, like college.
So do we foresee an issue? I mean, it's kind of hard to say, but like an issue. Kids are going to be there. Are they going to be picking up the phone and calling and playing?
It's linked to the police, though. So I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's linked straight here. So
They'll get tired of
they'll
it.
get tired.
Yeah. They'll figure it out.
That's a charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking kids, though, is what I'm concerned about. Yeah, it'll probably end up being something that we would want to discuss at the schools too, especially with the younger ones. Hey, you see these phones, you don't want to put. So yeah, okay.
And one other thing, next to the old city hall, I think they're going to keep 2 cars over there. So one thing good about it, if they're not on the road, it is close to our facilities. At the old.
Keeping what kind of cars over there?
They just keep it, 2 cruiser cars, like auxiliary or whatever.
And one reason I just wanted to state why we're asking for this at this time is that we're trying to get all the underground work in. So it's electrical feeds that we have. So we're proceeding on that. So as we move from winter through winter into spring, then we'll be able to start on our drives, our parking lot, our north parking lot. So we have all the underground work in. So that's why we're requesting that approval now. So, because we're doing that work as we speak. We want to do that in conjunction.
This will be owner contingency, and so I'll show you farther down in the presentation where we are. So we have set aside, we have $1.3 million for owner contingency for things that come up that the owner is responsible for or that the owner wants. And so we're managing it that way, and I have a summary of that as we go on the presentation.
So this is similar to the other change orders that we had.
Exactly.
It's already part of the budget, but now it's coming to fruition. We actually put some metrics behind the numbers.
That's correct.
So this is all within our budget. So you're correct.
Yes.
You're correct, Mrs. Moore.
And the metric for the numbers where it was competitively bid in advance when we went out to do our GMP. So we received, in this case, there was probably 6 electrical bids that we received for the base work along with these alternates. So as Doug indicated, there were prior bid values that you have here. So it's a competitive number.
The next request for change order we have is for the culinary kitchen area. This also was bid at the time of the GMP. It's for $330,107. And that's broken up of a couple different things. It's the actual architectural build out of the furnishings inside the space, as well as the equipment cost. We did see a rise in the equipment cost since we awarded the GMP. Infinity tried to work with them. They were able to keep the interior build out costs the same, but there was a rise of $22,000. So this is the new total that we have for this. The next slide I actually show, yes.
Before we move on, I was looking at, there was some other information you had sent to us that had the list of, possibilities of contingencies. And I noticed the planetarium was on there, but not here. Do we see the kitchen and the planetarium as an either or type of thing? Or is there a possibility for both of them?
Right now, we just have the request for the culinary arts because of the equipment. We are still working with the planetarium. Those costs have also gone up, and we are still looking at that, and that'll be a decision I have to be made. And it's the same way. So is it an either or? Well, we have a certain amount of money that we're managing towards, and we're going to get close with, these are big items. They're big programs, they're big assets, but also with the market and everything that we have right now, they're pretty costly. So we want to have it in. We still are working on it. We've asked the design team and we've asked Infinity to work on updating a bulletin to clarify all of the scope. Since we bid the project, we've met with the company that makes the planetarium equipment, and the equipment that we currently have, they don't make anymore. They don't support anymore. When it breaks, we're going to have a hard time getting parts for it and everything. So we've been working closely with Jonathan on it. So what we're getting updated. That'll be called a bulletin, because at this time we have a contract. That bulletin will show how much it'll cost to build the space out, and it will show how much it costs for new equipment. And we'll have to make some decisions at that time. So, and right now, this is pressing because of the kitchen equipment and the lead time and everything like that.
Understood.
And tied with that is that what, as Doug has indicated, the kitchen equipment price, we're able to hold it through the month of October. So that's why we wanted to have this done now.
Going now.
There's no guarantee that they'll be able to hold the price come November 1st. So the price of appliances, kitchen equipment and such continues to fluctuate in the market and goes up. So I expressed to Doug and to Don that we lock this in right now, even though there's a premium. It would go up if you don't approve it.
Yes.
So, and I wanted to not have that to be the case because I knew how important the culinary space was to the district as part of their program.
Yes.
As we went forward.
Thank you. Okay.
The next slide, we actually wanted to remind everybody what the culinary arts is and what we had in the design. It's been a long time. So on the left-hand side, what we see is kind of a blow up. And this is in the high school portion. The upper left-hand space is where the student dining is. And then you can see where we have the high school serving. Okay, so that's all part of the high school. To the right, then, you can see the culinary dining. And the way this was designed is it has an exterior door on it. So with the curriculum, we can go ahead and we can have people come in from the outside. We have a little area so someone can be trained to go ahead and to be a hostess, to have them come in. We have a student dining area, which we think can also double as like a VIP area if you have other events inside for the arena or for a theatrical event or something like that. And then we have double doors that go into the actual kitchen area. Included in this is also in the area for locker rooms for the students to be able to change clothes. And this is kind of being built out just like a real kitchen. So to the right, you can start to see the equipment layout. It's designed a little uniquely where we have a lot of tables that can move around. The instructor can come around and we can have, I think, 6 different groups of 2 or 3 that can actually be cooking, where we have shared hoods and they have their own equipment and everything like that.
I have a quick question for Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, is this program going to be open for other schools?
Yeah, so it's part of the consortium for Bedford, Maple, Shaker, and Cleveland Heights.
Cleveland Heights.
Oh,
Like our kids go over there, so any of those. And we doing these culinary. Last month we approved the culinary club. We're trying to get our kids engaged in it earlier, so that most of the seats will be our students in these programs. That's our goal. To get most of it. Again, it goes back to exposure. If people are not exposed to it, they don't know it exists. Then by 11th grade, it's kind of late, so we are trying to expose early. But you got to. This is going to be a restaurant that the community can come to and eat. Like every Thursday, Jane Allen's out in Cleveland. They serve the community. It's like going to a 5-star restaurant. The kids get the opportunity to serve. They manage the register. I think this would be a very unique and powerful part of our program here.
Jonathan, if you could go forward a couple slides to the budget summary. We keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. This is it. I'm going to skip ahead because those change orders have to do with our contingency. So this sheet shows where we are, what we've spent, and then if these are approved this evening, what we have left.
What would be?
So as I mentioned, we have, and again, this is for the high school, middle school. So the way we manage it is we have a certain amount of money that we manage towards for that scope of work. With the demolition projects, with the stadium, that's a different part of the program budget. Okay, so this 1.3 million we're looking at is associated with these 2 change orders we requested. So as Dr. Rock mentioned, we have executed $433,000 worth of change orders already in the project. And with these 2 change orders, we have $500,000, a little over $500,000 that we're going to be managing. So we don't know what is going to be coming up. We're very careful about our requests and when we ask for this, and we know we have a lot of construction to go. But that's where we're at right now with this. Okay. If we can go back to the GMP 3. So the other requests we have this evening are for the demolition. These are new GMPs with Infinity. So these were bid and they came in very high. So we actually, oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe one more. Or one more. Yeah, this is it. Thank you. These were bid. The prices came in really high. So we met with the team. We did more testing to better define what hazardous material and what asbestos-containing material needed to be removed. We looked at the extent of demolition, whether we had to tear out all the foundations or part of the foundations, and we really kind of honed in on it. We rebid both the middle school and the bus garage, and we rebid Eastwood. And so both of them came back, and we were able to put these GMPs together. Now, these are co-funded, so the state puts together an estimate of what they think they're going to cost. And so I'm just as a frame of reference where we are in the market and everything. The middle school, high school came in $26,000 above the state funding. So what that means is part of we got to demolish it. It's the cost that it is. It's going to come out of our locally funded initiative. So we have money in the overall program to do that. But I wanted to give you some of the history of what we did when we first saw how high the prices were. Okay. So the GMP request is for $584,785. And this GMP does include a couple of allowances. Infinity would like to take a closer look at some of the structural issues at the high school before we demolish that, to make sure that we're aware of any surprises. And then we also have some CEI charges that we're going to have. Okay.
You want to give a little history on the initial budgeting that we did on this?
I think that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Fine.
It was a lot. The team.
We've come down considerably from where we were. I could say that there was a lot of effort. We got additional bidders into the equation. So
That was higher than the $5 million.
yes,
Yeah,
about 3 months ago, and we went back to the drawing board on it and reevaluated it, really looked at the extent of it, got the design team to modify some of the documents that were issued to the bidders to reflect more of accurate conditions on site. We did a little bit more investigative work to accomplish that, and that took some of the unknown factors out of the bid market. If you have unknown factors, bidders put a high unknown value to that to competitively bid that. So we got rid of that, and that's why it took us a little longer to get to where we are today.
That makes sense.
Next slide, please. So I wanted to put the site plan up because I thought it might be beneficial to just explain a little bit more about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So this plan shows, you can see the footprint of the middle school in the gray, and then you can kind of see the bus garage below that. The hashed line shows the footprint of the middle school property. And then the other area where the topo lines are, that's really all under construction right now. And so as we go in, the first thing we're going to do is we need to go in and we need to remove the hazardous material and the asbestos containing materials. And we're also going to remove the underground fuel tank by the bus garage. And then after that, we can start demolishing the building. Once the building is demolished, we're going to go ahead and we will infill it with some of the soils that we have kept on site. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to keep the parking lot that's currently behind the middle school, so that as we start to build the stadium, right now that's the contractor parking. So then we'll move the contractors to this lot. So rather than try to tear it up and then put more gravel down, we're just going to keep it. We'll let contractors park on it. And then when it comes time for us to move into this, then we'll come back to demolish it.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So the cost, this is just like the other GMPs. So it's made up of several different items. The biggest cost is actually the subcontractor work. I thought it'd be beneficial just to kind of break out. We have the abatement cost, and then we also have the demolition costs. And then we have the allowances. And any of the allowances that aren't used, we track all of that. If it's not used, it comes back to the district. We have general conditions, about $5,600 for the trailers, for cleaning, and for bond. Infinity has personnel costs and their CMR contingency of $23,216, and then their pre-negotiated fee that we have of 2%. So that's how we get up to the $584,000. Yes. Abatement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's two aspects of it. There's hazardous materials, and then there's asbestos containing materials. So neither one of those can really just go into the landfill with the rest of the demolition. So we have the contractor that comes in, and hazardous materials, it can have like chemical containers, it can have batteries, light fixtures, can have old TVs and electrical equipment, anything that just can't go into a landfill. And then the asbestos containing materials, in our case, we have 9x9 floor tile. We have some mastic that was used to glue boards on. We have some caulk. We have joints around some of the drain fittings. And then the biggest thing is the roof. It has hazardous materials. So those have to be treated differently. You have to have an abatement contractor come in with personal protective gear. They have to isolate the area. When they demolish it, it has to be protected and it has to be kind of double bagged so that it can go to a landfill, and then the whole history of the product is tracked. So those are the materials that we'll be pulling out, and those are the costs associated. And then we have the abatement contractor comes in first, and then we also have a testing agency that does air modeling. When they get done, then they do an all clear. They check to make sure everything's out of there. Then once that's clear, then they come in sledgehammers. All right, next slide, please. So our schedule, with approval, we have to issue a 2-week notification so that we can go ahead and do that before any abatement can take place. We'd like to start abatement on November 8th through December 3rd. And this again is for the high school or for the middle school and for the bus garage. And then after the abatement's done, then we'll start the demolition. And the real goal is we want to have the building done by April so that we can get started on the athletic fields. All right, the next slide. So the GMP 4 is for Eastwood Elementary, and it's pretty similar to what we had just talked about. This is for $514,000 and $514,197. This is co-funded. This was about $90,000, a little over $90,000 over what the state estimate was. And again, we went through to see how much demolition we had to do. One of the things we did to save some money for the middle school was we worked with the structural engineer. And since we knew we were going to be putting a baseball field over it, we talked to him, and we tore our foundations down just enough so that it was safe, but we knew how we were going to develop the site. So we didn't spend more money to take more foundations out there that are never going to bother anything, okay? With this project, we kind of looked at that. Currently, we have pricing for that, but the GMP we're requesting includes all the demolition. So it's basically a clean site for however the district decides to transition with it. Yes.
When you say a clean site, what do you envision Eastwood looking like once this is done? Is it just a big field of grass?
Field of grass, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's right. If we don't accept the ad alternate, because again, with the prices we saw before, we needed to do something drastic. So we actually bid it as an ad alternate to say, leave the slab and leave the foundations. And then at that point, if you walked on it, then you would see the slab, you would see the tile, you would see, we'd have caps on drain tile and stuff like that, and foundations below. But with this GMP request, it would clean the whole site.
Okay.
So what is the date that you guys can get through that?
Yep.
You're going to start the demolition of Eastwood.
Yep, we have a little further down. We are going, our abatement contractor, we talked to them, and they would go do the middle school first. Then when they're done with the middle school, then they would go ahead and do this. And so when they finish this, then we'd follow up with demolition. So the demolition is actually the same kind of December to April, where it'll be all gone. But we're going to abate the middle school first and then go over there.
Abate, then demolish.
Yes.
Okay.
Abate and start demolition, abate, and
And
then
then start for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Abatement's got to be done on both before we can do demo.
Yep.
We have one abatement contractor, so a local firm, Coleman Trucking, they'll be doing both projects. So they'll finish the middle school first, and when they're done, based on their manpower, then they'll go to Eastwood. They have two separate demo contractors, but they can, they got to wait for the abatement to go.
All right.
Please.
All right, next slide, please. There we go. So this is Eastwood, and this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're not leaving anything. We're going to go in and get rid of all of it. And then I think the next slide has the summary of the cost breakdown.
Quick question, Sean, on Eastwood, would that include the old tennis court?
Yes, it would. Everything's going.
I got you.
Grass, complete grass field.
Thank you.
And then this is the actual schedule. So they finish the middle school abatement, and then they'll come over here December 6th through January 21st, and then they'll start the demolition January 30th. Okay. And next slide, please. And then we wanted to update you on the actual construction. John, you want to?
Sure, I'd love to talk. So we're making good progress on site. So structural steel in the academic wing for the high school is up minus the roof. But it's a major milestone for us because what's on there, it's not on there, is that's what's completed. But okay, just what's completed. We'll talk about what's new. But underground utilities, we're really focused on the structure. A lot of masonry work is going up. What's not on here?
I have a slide.
Oh,
next slide. If you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. I want to say this: we're focused on structural steel for completion and a lot of masonry work, and which is the backbone of your bones, your structure for your new facility. We're at this juncture is that with the academic wing or the high school portion, we're hitting a major milestone that we have the structure up that we're going to do our concrete placements. So we wanted to try and get some concrete placements in before winter so we can minimize our construction contingency costs. If we can save money there at the end, that could be something that can be returned. So you're going to see this Friday, we're going to start major concrete placement activities. We're going to do the second level on deck of the high school. And then next week we'll do the third level. And then the following week we'll do the ground level. So we will have concrete for further trade activity, which opens up more rough-in work and more activity on the site, which is a major goal for us. Underground utility, fire, and water piping. We're working on our underground right now. So all our utility work, we're digging everywhere. You can see from where we made the tie-in on Northfield for the water line and the fire line. We're running that in, and we appreciate Don working with the district and getting us and allowing us on that south side of the site to maneuver in and coordinated with you on your personnel and also deliveries at the loading dock. So we're moving in that regard. Gas service, we got Dominion. They have to run service. I call it a country mile, from Northfield onto the site. And so Dominion was outside, verified that they're going to start that service. That's critical for us because we'll use the permanent service for temporary heating. Doing that reduces the cost versus having tanks and then fire watches and everything else associated with that. So that's a major component for us. The masonry is proceeding on the high school and middle school. We're getting 2 to 4 semis of masonry block a week on site. We're getting 2 to 4 semis of grout a week. So the truck traffic, the managing of the logistics to get material unloaded, get it staged, and get it in place. It's a major undertaking. We're probably averaging about 7,000 block a week that we're laying. We got a couple 100,000 a block that we have overall, but we're trying to beat winter weather conditions as much as we can. And God's been on our side. I guess He's helping my prayers a little bit too, and keeping the nice weather with us. So we'll see what the next week's offer. Because we blink and it'll be November. Exterior metal stud framing is going to start next week, which means on the high school portion, that academic wing, we're going to start enclosing the structure. I'm doing it a little unique. I don't have a roof. I've never built a building and started my exterior walls and I didn't have a roof system because of the delay in getting roof trusses, which we're not getting to near the end of this December. But if I have material, I'm going to build something, and I'm going to figure out how to sequence it as we go forward. But we're moving forward to try and get our exterior walls in so we can get it as enclosed as we can as we go through the winter months. The auditorium, athletic area, structural steel, that started. But again, I have to complete my masonry work in those areas, and then we can get that in and incorporated. One major component for us is the slab on decks at mechanical mezzanines. We have 2 mechanical mezzanines areas, and I need to get those complete because I'm getting air handler units delivered in mid-December, and I need to set those in the building because you're not walking those through a doorway. And so I have to set those in before I set my roof trusses. So there's some coordination along with that. So we've been lucky in regards of some material procurement that we've been able to hold dates just based on the supply chain issues that we all read about and hear about in the newspaper every day. But that's some due diligence on our part, some good contractors and some good relationships that we have to make those major pieces of material show up in a timely fashion as we sequence this thing. We're still tracking for fall 23. We'll see what the winter offers us, and we'll adjust accordingly as we go forward, like we always do. It's Northern Ohio, you don't know what to expect. No, but we're moving.
And if I could add, that's with the middle school and high school. Last night, the city approved the athletic complex. So right now, Infinity is looking at that. We're finalizing the drawings for that. We're looking at the grandstands. We've kind of been talking about when we're going to come to the board with the request. It looks like it'll be December for the GMP. We might have an earlier request in November because the lead times with steel and everything. So we're kind of pushing Infinity to say, we got to get this now. We got to ask, and so that might be a little bit out of sequence, but right now we're not in normal times. So we want to make sure we get the stadium complete. We need to have the bleachers in place before we can do the field. So that might be a request that comes up soon. Okay.
I think we'll be able to make that happen.
And then we have some photos.
And there is your academic wing, your high school wing at the top. And there's your structural frame. The uniqueness of it, there's no roof on it. So that second level, that's what we're going to place on Friday. The third level will be next week, and then the ground level the following week. So those two photos give you a snapshot of that. The lower photo to the right of that, that is the back of the stage area. So if you go to the other side of the view, you would see your auditorium. So to the right of that, that's the masonry wall that's sort of set back in, and that's the back of the stage. So, and then go back 1 second, Jonathan, and continuing to the right of that on the lower photo, that's your firewall separation between your high school based on the square footage there for high school. Then you go into your two gyms and your athletic portion, and then down on that side is your middle school. So you can see that gray, that's all block. Those are 37-foot tall walls. It takes a lot of time to brace those as you put the scaffolding up. You got to grout those. You got to let those sit. Make sure that they're firm before you move scaffolding up to the next level. So it's a very complex process, from the masonry activities as we go. Go ahead, Jonathan. Next slide. We are now looking at the south elevation. So middle school dining, looking toward the gyms. We're south, so that back in the background, that's the firewall I talked about. That is the wall that separates. On the other side of that is your auditorium and then your academic wing. We're starting to put up the gym wall, so you can see the JLG, the equipment lift that's sitting in the upper photo. That's in the main gym. The forefront is where the block is where the concrete is. That's your middle school gym. It's really, there's a lot of depth there, but you don't really see it in that photo. So you come out there and I can show it to you if any time that you want to schedule a board walkthrough. Gladly would love to show you around the site.
And Sean, just for the board's reference, can you share like the north end, which is actually a basin in the backyard of Highland Hills? Like you have it here, but the north side of that building will be where we're going to have a parking lot.
Yes. You can't. It's.
You can't really read it.
If you look at the top photo, you see the corner of the rec center. That's over there, the existing rec center. North of that is where the north parking lot will be, which is right now a retention basin. And then that north parking lot will have a new road access that'll go into Northfield. And so that'll be our access as we come into the school, and will be the phased area when we turn over the school. And, probably at a later time, Ray, we could do phasing drawings. There's a lot. And maybe what I would like to do is, you see all the drawings I got up on the walls, and we try and do things in picture, particularly with contractors, because I say you're in this area, you're going to this area.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be something maybe we could do at the board, because it's a lot. It's a lot to digest. But at some point, if you want to do that, we have the facilities that I can provide you some real detail on our methods to our madness as we're going forward. But this gives you a feel of where we're at. And this is the east side on the bottom photo again of your academic wing for your high school. And it just shows the stairwells that are up and some of the structural steel without a roof. But it's major milestone for us. Auditorium area. That's, again, I was showing you, I described the back wall of the stage. Here's the front wall of the stage. And you can see where the dirt is. Eventually, that's all going to be dug out, because then that'll be sloped for seating on the upper left-hand corner. The one on the right, in the upper right-hand corner, we placed our first slab. That's your athletics section that we've done there. We decided to do that for a lot of reasons that I won't go into, but it made sense to start getting some slabs in as we move forward through winter, because you don't want to be on mud. You want to get off of the dirt, and concrete surfaces are the best to do. There's a close-up of the middle school gym. Those piles of dirt there are dirt. Those are stone. We spread that stone in there, so we've made it easier access to the walls and the equipment that have to unload all that block and move that block around and set it up so a mason can lay that block. And then there's the water vault. That's your tie-in at Northfield Road, and that's what we did this past week. So we made our tie-in with the water department, and then now we're getting our water service and our fire line to the building. We want to get all our utilities to the building as quickly as we can, so that we can then come spring work on our site, where I'm not digging up utilities. I'm actually looking at put sub-base in. I'm looking at put roads in, and starting to create an access around the site of permanent access. Next slide.
That's it.
That's it. Perfect. All right.
All right.
Looking nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Right.
I just want to thank you guys for getting the PowerPoint presentation to us. It helps me to review it ahead of time. And to, if I do have questions, to ask reasonably smart questions. So I do appreciate you making the effort to get it early.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Very exciting.
Right.
Anytime.
All right.
Have a good night.
The board hats are still over there. So.
Yes, they are.
All right. All right. Let's get through this.
So you shared that with both you were there.
Yes.
All right. We're going to move on into the next portion of our agenda. And finally, motion to approve that consent agenda. Treasurer's report, financial recommendations, and that's going to be item 2.1 through 2.3.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda items 2.1 and 2.2. Oh, excuse me, through 2.3.
Now, second. Thank you for moving properly seconded. Board user input, additional conversation on any of these items.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Right quick. The strategic solutions contract. Would that help alleviate any of the storage problems we're having? The Westwood storage. Would that help with that, or is this independent from what we have from the items we have stored at Westwood still?
Yeah, it's independent from that. This is purely record storage.
Okay.
Records, transcripts, payroll records, financial records. I think the storage at Westwood is more
Equipment related.
equipment, and we had attic storage.
Yeah, that's fine.
Attic stock. Yeah, like for the extra tiles and stuff that we build. So it's two different types of storage, Mr. Roberts.
All right. Just wondering if we could, kill additional birds with that stuff.
So I just want to talk about this. So that's for probably the last 15 years, our stuff been at Guardian.
Yep.
Guardian has been non-compliant. Doesn't respond. We can't get the transfer. So Dr. Rock started the process of getting our stuff out of Guardian. I believe Guardian is going out of business.
Yes.
They're going out of business. So we're taking all of our records out of Guardian to this new company. This new company does mainly school districts. So they're friendly. They know the needs of school districts. So I believe this would be a great solution to our records issue. These all of our transcripts of agencies that are very hard to find them. Like you get it on the screen and they're in a box, they don't go to the box. It's just been a lot of issues over here. So this was a great opportunity for us to get out of Guardian to a new place that would support the work that we do.
I have a question on this one as well. So Dr. Ruck, I did see your response and you said it's kind of hard. My concern was how much is this costing us? And do we have even a ballpark? I mean, are we talking $10,000 a year or what? I mean,
It's going to be somewhere around, if we had everything as is right now, it would be $25,000 a year. But it's not going to be that because we're going to transfer things over and there's going to be records that do not need to be stored after we get the expertise from Strategic Solutions and properly go through everything. So it's probably going to be less. That's why I just wanted us to at least engage with the price list of what we're going to use. And then as we get proposals, after everything's transferred over to Strategic Solutions, which we thought we've been ready. And Guardian's really been giving us a hard time on moving everything. So that's becoming more of a process itself. It was supposed to be a 1 week process, and now we're going on for 3 weeks now. And it's not on our end, and it's not on Strategic Solutions end. So really what we need to do is get all our records over to Strategic Solutions, and they can give us proposals on what could be destroyed, what really needs to be stored, what can be scanned. And, as they give us those proposals, I will bring that to the board.
so, but what I'm understanding though is what we're approving today is no more than 25,000 coming out of general fund.
What we're approving today is just to engage with the price list, and then I will bring the different parts to you as it is an actual dollar amount.
So what this is, we're approving a contract.
Yeah, just a contract for us to engage with them.
Okay.
And the only reason of that is because, and the reason that it's not traditional is because, again, we've been having such a hard time with Guardian. I wanted to at least get us on the books that we're engaging with this vendor. I mean, it's at the board's discretion. It's not required that we do this, but I think it's good practice for us to accept the price list, and then as proposals come through, I would bring that directly to the board for board approval or for board discussion.
So can we say that that's what we're doing here? Because this is saying we're approving a contract, but are we approving a contract or are we approving the board? Are we authorizing you to enter into like negotiations or discussions?
That's exactly what you're doing. You're authorizing Mr. Jolly and I to engage with the company and get proposals from them for the different layers of record storage.
So can we have it state that that's what we're doing? Because what it says is we're approving a contract. And that's why I was asking, well, how much is the contract for? So I think it's just the language of what we're approving.
You can change that.
Are
you can see my concerns is I wanted to at least, I didn't want Mr. Jolly and I to be operating with a company that's not board approved. And now that since they've been dragging their feet and they weren't dragging their feet, it's the company we're trying to leave is making this such a unique situation for the district that I wanted to at least get on record and have in our minutes that it's accepted that we do business and seek proposals from that company. So that's why it's non-traditional. Usually you don't see this. So I would agree, probably we could change the language.
Okay.
We could even just put to authorize the superintendent and treasurer to engage and seek proposals.
Board, is everyone okay with that? I mean, I know I'm throwing it out there, but I want to make sure everybody is good with what I'm asking.
Well, I think we need to engage with them. I know I've seen some records over there at Guardian, and they're terrible. We have boxes that's almost empty. I think with Dr. Rock saying condense and have strategic go through it, we would probably, as a district, save money. But we do need to get those actual records out of there. I mean, once we had a case with another district, that really opened our eyes. And I know Superintendent Jolly and Dr. Rock seen that we have documents over there that, I mean, they're charging us for empty boxes almost. So,
I do do a whole look into it again. When you look at the documents, they do this was proving their estimated cost, which in reality will not in to a point of what they're quoting us. So they'll say everything is down on that.
Yes, that's what it's doing. It's locking
This
in
is
their,
locking in their estimate.
well, it's locking in all their different prices for the different layers of services.
So Dr. Long, is this company, is this company, is the only bid, or we done had several bids for our storage of record? This is the company, this is the only company bid we got? Or there was other bids, but this is the,
This does not require bidding.
okay.
And also it's a very short list of players or companies that actually
offer this service.
do this type of service.
Oh, okay. Oh.
And this is the one though, like Mr. Jolly said, 90% of their business is all school districts. So they specialize in school districts.
Okay.
That's actually one of their presentations.
Hey, Tracy, what was this isn't going to sound right, but what was the point that you just made when
What
you
I
were,
was making is, but if by approving this is like a contract giving you an estimate. So just telling you, here's the amount they charge you $500 to do this, and when you get done, they charge you $1,500. This says this is a list of prices that you're giving us to say this is what we're agreeing to charge you guys. So by signing this, it's just like when you bid your car, they sign the estimate.
It won't
It's
be
the
more
same
than.
thing, so that they don't go above and beyond this cost.
okay. I'm going to ask again. So is this worded the right way? Or should we say, or should we change it to say that we are seeking proposals or,
We're
author?
not seeking proposals.
That's what Rock said, right? That's what Dr.
Yeah,
Rock just said
It's
though.
to engage with services. So it's almost even similar if we were signing up for a law firm and they said, here's what we charge per hour for litigation. Here's what we charge per hour for other services. Here's what we charge per hour for copying. It's the same as if we were signing up with a copier company. It's locking in our prices for all of these different things.
I guess I just want to make sure that it reads that way. And I'm not sure that it does, but I'm asking the board to tell me, do you think that this is reading the right way? Are we covering ourselves when it comes to approving a contract with no dollar amount?
Yeah, this locks in the prices, but then they'll come back to us with proposals, and they'll come back and they'll say, you have X amount of boxes that you should put into storage, and then they're gonna go to this price list, and they're gonna say, per box is this amount, and this is what it's gonna cost, and then I'll bring that to the board. Because right now, we don't wanna pay for every box that's getting transferred over there,
Right,
because there's
I
some
understand
boxes
that.
that do not need to be stored. So then on that, then we would pay whatever the shredding cost is. So that's why it's like a menu, just like Ms. Mitchell said.
All right, so again, does it read
Madam Chair?
right on the agenda? Are you guys comfortable with the way that it reads?
I'm trying to wait for this vote.
I'm fine with
leaving
it,
up to
Madam
you guys.
Chair.
If you guys are comfortable with
Yeah,
it,
I'm comfortable with it.
I'm used to seeing a dollar amount when we're talking a contract. And it says contract,
Can
so,
we change the language to, contracted estimate or something like that? Contracted, I don't even know what to call it, 'cause it is their cost of services that they quote us, so I don't know what to call it.
We could just call it cost of services or contract. I mean, that's really,
But we're signing it, so it's a legal document.
no,
We're considered legal.
We're not
So
signing
perhaps maybe it should call it proposal, like Mr. Kelly said.
well, here, we could just call it a master services agreement.
so, okay. So can we at least say not to exceed 25,000? We're saying money's coming out of general fund, but we're not saying how much. So if we're saying it's some kind of master agreement, then my personal opinion is that there should be a corresponding dollar amount.
But Dr. Bob, you were saying that right now you all haven't actually negotiated the exact money amount, correct?
Yes, that's why I just propose us just to lock in the prices.
Okay.
And then as something becomes measurable, where it's a quote, we won't do anything. We'll bring it to the board to approve, and you can approve it per penny, up to the penny.
All right.
That's why it's a unique situation that there's no price associated with this. And Mr. Jolly and I are not going to engage in anything or spend anything on this until we give you the quotes and the proposals. But we don't have that until all the records are get over to the new place.
Review.
Just to give you an example, at first, Guardian said they had X amount of pallets, and that added up to so many boxes. Okay, but then we had a list that said it was 7,000 boxes. So we want to actually see what gets over there. And at first, so some of the quotes were like the proposals that I gave you. The best number we had at that point in time was 6,120 boxes. So we really don't know until everything gets over there and Strategic Solutions can look at it. And then at the same point, they're going to look at it and tell us what boxes really need to go into storage and which ones would be shredded. So once we figure that out, we don't want to pay for ones that should be shredded like we already are with Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
And with those proposals that I sent to the board, it's a substantial savings. It's a really big savings that we're going to have. But I have to be honest with you, I can't calculate it right now until we have the experts take a look at it.
So instead of saying a contract, can we call it a proposal, a master estimate or something like that?
Well,
I'm fine with anything as long as we just get it on record because I think that's best
can
practice.
we use to negotiate? Can we use the word negotiate?
It's not negotiated. They are going to, they've given us negotiated. I don't want to upset you. I just want to ask a question.
You're not saying.
So they've already gone through and looked at everything. This is the list they gave us are negotiated prices. So Mimi's point, I'm just asking, can you call it?
Proposal, maybe. Yeah, proposal.
Versus a
I'm
contract.
comfortable with a proposal.
Yeah.
So we need to pull that, we need to pull the motion back and change the verbiage there. Yes.
Authorize the treasurer and the superintendent to seek proposals.
Not
Oh,
proposal.
yeah.
This is the proposal.
Correct.
We're approving the proposal. This laundry list of costs
Oh, gotcha, okay.
is what they're not gonna see those costs. That's what they want to sign. And they want it on record. So Dr. Martin, we need to pull that as a motion back.
Okay.
So we need somebody to please rescind the motion for item 2, section 2, item 2.1.
Madam Chair, I move that we rescind the original motion for item 2.1, contract for strategic solutions.
And have a second.
I'll second it.
And what is the language, Madam Chair, for
It's
that?
going to read to approve a proposal with strategic solutions for off-site record storage for the district.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion on those, any of those things?
No, I thank you guys for entertaining that.
Dr. Bracken, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Trina,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
He has a leave, he said he needs to be, his leave by April 27th.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0.
I'd like to personally thank the board. I know this is non-traditional, but we're just trying to do what's best for the district and do best practice.
And we appreciate that.
All right, now we need a motion on the floor to approve items on the agenda, so recommendations, presentations for board action, certificate staff. That's going to be items 3.1 and 3.6.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certificated staff. That's for items 3.1 through 3.6.
May I have a second?
A second.
Mr. Newman properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this section?
I have one or two questions. Why are we paying Mr. Swift on 3.5?
The recreational stipends. He's a basketball instructor.
Yeah, so this is outside of the scope of his work. So this is like, he's not managing, he's instructing basketball. So he's not, it's after work, he is part of the recreation program.
Okay.
And so she asked a good question because at one point there was something set up that said that administrators could not, I know it was stipends.
It was
So is
stipends.
this different? Are we considering this different than stipends?
I consider it different because the stipends are part of the contract.
That's negotiated.
That's negotiated, this is not negotiated at all.
Oh,
This is just, you sign a program, you, an employee of the program. Outside of his work hours. The stipend is like basketball stuff. Coincide with your work hours and everything. So I look at it as outside of the review of work.
So, Mr. Garland, help me to understand this. Isn't he the director of the recreation?
He's the coordinator of the rec program at this point, this man.
So wouldn't this title cover that? It's not?
Kind of like double dipping almost.
It's sticky. It's additional work. It's to coordinate something and then actually be the folks like to actually be there working it is different. If he wasn't working it, I would say it's different. He just was there.
Okay,
Just
so he's
looking at
actually working.
He actually working. He on the ground with players with the little kids.
He's running an
Okay.
individual program.
It's an individual person. He's not.
Okay.
He put out the flyers, but he's like an employee of the program at this point.
Okay.
That's how I see it. I mean, y'all can see it different, but I just.
I think it's sticky.
Yeah.
So.
And the other ones are supplementals.
Let me
Yeah,
ask
this is
you-
different than something
Okay,
else.
let me ask you this. Then who is over these particular programs, this particular program?
So the basketball stuff, technically, Mr. Swift, the recreation department bought out on the program. So he's the direct coordinator of the program to put it out. So he would be in charge of the program.
So he's in charge of himself. There's no, unless
it's
you're
me.
overseeing
I mean,
it.
ultimately, I'm in charge of it, but he designed or he seeked out all these people to do these different programs. But he's working it too. He's working it, not
And I'm not.
as a
gonna
supervisor.
tell you that. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you that. If he working it, we should pay him, so.
He's working, he's not in the role of a supervisor for the hours that this program is going. So, then we'll have to have another conversation about another something else too that's on the horizon. But this, so from years ago, whatever the rule was that administrators couldn't get stipends.
Right.
I don't know if I would have recommended that because there's a lot of time that is exhausted with these playing coaching sports. And
And I
I
agree.
think people should be compensated for that extra time.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend that, but when it happened. So at this point, this is similar to, I think similar, if you're the coach,
Mhm.
kind of similar, but we need to.
But that was negotiated, right? So it's not a policy. That was just something that was negotiated.
It's not really in the U.S. No, it's not in the,
Okay.
it's not a policy, it's not
Okay.
a contract. Our contract doesn't say we can get this time.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't. It was, whenever Swift made a transition,
Mhm.
the agreement was that he would get a stipend. I don't know, I wasn't here when it happened, but whenever that transition was. So what he did was take the stipend and hire more coaches. That's what he used the stipend for.
Oh.
So at this point, I think this is the conversation that we should have about this.
Mhm.
I think, if you work in the program, you should get paid for work in the program. And this is why we need to have a recreation program too. Because we wouldn't have a program if he ain't, he got to organize it and work it. Because we don't have a lot of people to participate. We just don't. A lot of these guys are already working for us or have worked for us already.
So this has nothing to do with his current job, the coordinator. So
Even his job description, recreation, is not really in it.
okay.
Because it's not really in it. It became assumed that the athletic director will take the program. Because we really don't have no rec program. They in charge of the rec center, but it's really not his job description. Don't say rec program.
Yeah, I think that in the past, what they did is they added like an extra $2,000-3,000 onto the previous athletic director so that he could assume
Those
the
was
role
right.
of recreation
He
center.
didn't
Oh.
get that. He just on the basic scale for athletic
Right.
work. They didn't give him something. So
I didn't want anyone else to look at this and say, well,
why he get paid?
why is he getting paid?
So this is, if we put a job description, it's not gonna say rec program.
Okay. That's all.
It's not gonna say that. But like Mr. Gator said, in the past, they had provisions to
Okay.
cover it, which he did not allowed to, but now he's starting to do the work as the rec. So we will have to revisit that and talk about that.
Quick question, Superintendent Jelly. Even when Mr. Swift was a basketball coach, did he accept his salary?
He did.
He didn't get a supplemental for it. Remember?
He didn't get a supplemental.
He did not,
Never
yeah.
got it.
Right, but we paid him as a basketball coach.
No, he didn't
No.
pay him as basketball. He never got a difference.
That's the supplemental we're talking about. They get a
Oh.
supplemental for it, and he did not get it. I remember
There
that.
was some agreement that was made.
Oh, okay.
He was, I think, promoted. That was an agreement.
I got you. I thought I seen it on the agenda a long time ago.
No, he wasn't. He never got a differential.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
But at our next board meeting, we do need an executive session about something similar
Okay.
for the board to either change the course or something, to talk about how that works.
Okay.
Good discussion, good questions. Are there any other comments on this section?
Nope.
Hearing none, Dr. Rackman, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. Next on the agenda, we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda, certain superintendent's recommendations and presentations, and board action classified staff. And this is going to be items 4.1 and 4.7.
Madam Chair, I move item number 4 on tonight's agenda, superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action, classified staff. We're looking for items 4.1 through 4.7.
Now, second.
A second.
Are there any comments, questions on this, any of the items in this section?
I did want to talk to the board about 4.1 substitute pay. It is very difficult to get substitutes at this time. I wanted to see if the board would be willing to look at that substitute teacher suggested pay rate and make it higher. It's just difficult. I saw Lorraine went to 200 per day. Bedford is at like 150. So I'll propose a different number of possibly 125 and 150. 125 a day
150 after 10?
At day 11, you get 150. So right now,
Oh, gotcha, okay.
it's just hard to track substitute.
Bless you.
So you're saying instead of the 105, it would be 125 and 150.
And 150.
And what does that do? I mean, competitive, does that make us competitive with neighboring
It
districts?
makes it competitive with government and make
And I'm sorry, where were they at again?
it 150 after. Well, I think that might be 150 starting out at 150.
I mean, I think we want to be competitive. Is that something that we can, I mean, we budgeted for this type of an increase? How many?
Right now, we don't have any.
Well, I was going to say, how many substitutes have we even used this year?
It's not a lot. I mean,
Okay.
we scraping against substitutes. If we didn't have those extra teachers at the elementary school, we would have a lot. I mean, because as kids get sick or they get sick, people are out there. So the middle school is the major concern because they don't have any extra teachers there. So I just want to ask the board to revisit that number for teachers and sub-teachers and see if we can adjust it.
And you said Bedford is 150?
They're 150 a day. That's
And then what do they do after 10
I don't
days?
know that after 10 days. I need to get that. I know Lorraine went up to 200 a day, so we're back to 200.
I mean,
I think that's a little high.
do we know what Maple is?
I'll find out.
I mean, my thought is, board, that we want to be competitive, you know? $10 an hour was nothing. I'm surprised anybody would even consider it when they could go to McDonald's and make more money. So,
And right now, the intangible behind that decision is what's more important is closing the gap, catching up and intervention. So we need someone to be there with our scholars.
we need,
That outweighs any extra cost right now. We want to keep the momentum. We want to mitigate any loss, like Mr. Geller was saying, to present one report cards and everything. Right now, it's important for us to keep people in their seats.
Yeah, it's very important. Our principal's been covering classes. That's how dire it is.
so I have seen back in the day where you literally have some substitute teachers that are more or less babysitters, so to speak. They're really not doing much. So what do we have in place to make sure, or how do you know that the substitute teachers are doing what they need to do? If we're going to increase their pay, then I would think the expectation has to step up too.
I agree. So our principals, like our teachers, do have to be lessons. And with the computers, it's much easier than before because they have to leave in Google Classroom. Before they have to run them off, and then like in the office they have. If the principal didn't monitor it would be a legacy service. So at this time, with everybody with computers, and with the urgency of catching these kids up, the principals are monitoring it. And we haven't had a lot of so the principals pick up in the classes and so forth. So I think our principals would definitely, we can't afford to have no off days in our schools at all for these not to learn. So with that, I think the accountability, and we've got rid of stuff who don't do anything, just don't return them. You know, we put do not return on them. So I think the accountability is at all time high. And we will dismiss people who not working at all.
And it still goes through Rachel.
Rachel, yeah, but we called them and said, don't return down.
Yeah.
He's not effective.
So do you want to keep it at the 125 or do you want to do 150?
Screening program to get into it too. You can't just come off the street.
So we could do 150, 175, or 125, 150. I mean,
I think 150. And I'm going to say this because I was being a sub for so long. It makes a big difference for any sub to go into a classroom and there's no lesson plan. That's the problem. It's not the sub, it's the teacher. And I feel that it's their role and responsibility to leave a lesson plan in place for that sub. I mean, you know, you walking into a classroom, you don't have a clue. So you've got to have something in place for that substitute teacher. And Mr. Jolly, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think 150 may pull in more subs.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So that would be 150 a day, 75 a day.
That's what I think that would be attractive.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I'm good with that.
175 after the 10
After 11, yeah, on day 11.
Superintendent Jelly, when we do need subs,
We can pull in some good subs.
Superintendent Jelly, when we do use sub, do we use them more than 10 days normally?
They settle, but I think this year, so after 60 days, they get a contract.
Mm-hmm.
After 60 days. So, like, now we need bills. We need people at school every day because variable of people, kids, everybody. And we encourage people to stay home if they don't feel good. I mean, you encourage people to stay home because if they're sick and they haven't been to the doctor tested or something, it could be an issue. So, with that said, we try to get bill sales for every school.
Can I ask one more question? So what is the criteria to be a substitute teacher?
You have to have a bachelor's degree. Yeah, have one, but I think the state department, that's in that, anybody can do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as long as you have it. I just saw it, and I seen the hospital too, but I think in one of these hospitals that put in provision, like you just gotta be a high school graduate, and the district can determine if you qualify. So it'll be a district decision.
So we can decide still if we want someone to have a bachelor's or associate's degree?
Yeah, it's called SB1. So you can hire subs that don't need certification or college degrees.
Oh, really?
So that's coming up.
All right.
So Dr. Rock, we have money in the budget for the 175?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
And so we're 150, 175. Okay.
So Dr. Rucker, we need to rescind that motion again to change those dollar amounts.
Yes. That would be good.
So therefore, we need to rescind item 4, 4.1 through 4.7, and then we need to put a new motion on the floor to approve those same items with the corrected dollar amount for teachers, substitute teachers, and item 4.1, which is 150 /175 on the 11th.
All right, Madam Chair, I move that we rescind the previous motion of items 4.1 through 4.7. And I move that we accept, item 4.1 through 4.7 with the changes of the substitute teacher pay being 150 per day and then 175 after the 10th day.
Is there any additional discussion on the section board?
Nope.
No, thank you.
Right, Dr. Rockman, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. That will make them happy. I can have a motion on the floor to approve our consent agenda. Superintendent's recommendations of use for personnel and programs and study items 5.1 through 5.9.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs, items 5.1 through 5.9.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Moved properly seconded. Board, is there any discussion?
No.
Dr. Rock, hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. Our ratings. Next on our agenda are our Q updates. And our vice president had another engagement we had to leave for. So he did email us his update from Q. Yeah, he said it just.
Oh, I see it, yeah.
Oh,
Excuse me, but we do have, Member Freeman here who could provide an update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This year's Cube 2021 was different with the COVID factors and us not actually going to the last Cube that would have been in New Orleans. Going to Atlanta was a challenge. It was a challenge for COVID. It was a challenge for participants and actual Cube membership, boards coming in. What I learned this year, board, was there's a lot of new board members, and a lot of board members didn't know protocols and things like we're going through governance. And I thought with this one, it was two outstanding actual sessions that it struck me, and I went to them. One was with my Cube colleague, which is Erica Mitchell from Fulton County, Atlanta. She actually assembled a team of 7 people. So you had 4 doctors, and the actual session was protecting students from exploitation. So what she did with the 4 doctors, 2 parents, and 2 teachers, they looked into the data of different districts around the country on exploitation. Many times, and I know, Barbara, you spoke to this being a social worker, children 13, 14, and 15 get caught up in sex trafficking. We miss a lot of young girls, and I think with us as a board keeping sight of that and letting our educators know and the teachers know, and Ms. Gator does a good job of it. You got to watch. When you see a different, you think it's our student, you want to watch what happens or if somebody's snatching them. And the whole presentation was like, we as board members need to be cognizant of this. To be cognizant, to know that, you know, our children are getting snatched up. I mean, in Atlanta alone, I think they data was like they had 80 girls in a year. They lost 80 girls. They don't know where they're at. The parents still don't see them. And we as a school district, especially with us, and I mean, we have predators out there. We have people that actually prey on our children. So her presentation was good because she stated things, but she had the data to back it up. And they've been studying this. The actual doctors have been studying this for like 10 years in education, and it's on a rise. I mean, other things on a rise too, like suicide and so forth. But the actual exploitation of our children is something that we all need to be concerned with. I know Superintendent Jolly, we used to have the anonymous button and so forth, they can tell, but we just need to keep an eye on our children. I mean, with the district or outside of the district after with our athletic programs, but we definitely have to do that. But I want to say kudos to Erica Mitchell and the group who did that. The second one, Madam Chair, was the same one you and Mimi and I think Barb went to. They did the districts. So they did the larger districts over 100. They did the mid-sized districts between 20,000 and 70. And then I was stuck with the small district because we only have about 1,700 in our district. But I was glad this time to facilitate it. I had did it 2 times prior. But what touched me this year is that I had Kenya Hunt and I had Earl Roberts come to it. And I changed the actual presentation. So they had a presentation, Madam Chair, with just questions about COVID. Just, ask these questions. What did you do? So I thought after 3 of them questions, people were getting bored. And I think I had the most, probably 200 actual participants. So I changed it up to the why. I changed it up to why we do what we do as board members. Why did Mimi get on the board? Why did Barbara come on the board? Madam Chair, why did you get on the board? And myself. So I changed it up. And it touched me because our actual attorney from Buffalo, New York, she's been on her board 2 years. And the only reason she got on her board is because they mistreated her autistic son. So the son used to cry, used to come back, and it touched me so much. She started crying in her speaking. So I actually had to put the mic down and go and hug her. And she was bawling, crying, because it really, when you asked her why, and she said, Ms. Freeman, this is why. And then she thought back on her 14-year-old kid and what he went through with that school district. she said then in 2019, I'm running for that school board because they mistreated my son the way they treated him having his autistic, and she made sure that they don't treat another child like hers. So it was touching to me because I've been in these things 7 times, but to see her break down and cry, just a nice lady, man. I just had to hug her. So I mean, the work we do is impactful. She changed it, and I know many others we ran for different reasons, but that was the reason. That was her only son. She's an attorney, and the way that school district treated her son, she's like, no, I'm gonna get on that board and make a change. So that was very good. We did have a CUBE meeting last Thursday. I did get the results. I had told Superintendent Jolly would get the results. So out of 16 actual presentations and sessions, Warrensville, I got to be proud, we stood at number 8. So we in the middle of the pack, but Superintendent Jolly and his staff did a great presentation. I know I got 4 or 5 calls, and I think they're trying to reach out to you, Superintendent Jolly. They just wanted to say, how did we keep our scholars engaged during a pandemic? And I thought Kenya Hunt, Roxanne Lazar, and Dr. Caver, along with Dr. Reynolds and Superintendent Jolly, knocked it out the ballpark because they actually said, hey, and Mr. Jolly always does this, but he stepped before it got bad. When the pandemic came out in March 20th, I believe, of 2019, Mr. Jolly jumped on it. He wanted to make sure that we feed the children. We were looking at hotspots. And I think the other districts who were there, they sat in their board chair and didn't get proactive in their thinking to make sure our children are fed, make sure our children are still learning. And I think that's why and we were ranked 8th out of those 16 out of those 16 sections. But it was good. I didn't think it would be as well as I thought, but it was because people are new. I mean, when you get 575 people in an actual session, and you probably got about 200 of them is brand new, don't know nothing about CUBE, know nothing about National School Board Association. I thought it was good, and it made me smile to give light on new members like Mr. Roberts was last year. But it was a good actual conference. I really I learned about the humanity of people and why they ran for what they ran for. And next year we'll be in Miami, Florida. I know that's one of our favorites, and I guess that's what was voted on by most of the CUBE districts. National School Board Association is going through a challenging time, and I know, Mimi, you had told me that, and it is because most of the actual state associations are pulling out. We did a letter to President Biden on Monday of last week, and it was not referred to the actual associations. It was a letter NSBA wrote without even going to your membership. You need to show them the letter, or they would have looked and tweeted. But I know Ohio, Tennessee, today I heard Illinois, they may be pulling out of National School Boards Association. But it was a great presentation.
I do want to take you on this because Mr. Robert did share with us. So in fairness to give him a voice because he didn't attend. He said he did enjoy his attendance and was very informative. And some of the panel sessions that he attended that had impact on him was advancing student engagement, cultural responsiveness, and educational equity were amongst other things. They discussed methods to address the achievement gap. He talked about the town hall meeting and the impact it had on Nebraska's safe return to in-person learning. He recognized our own team for the way they expertly conducted a presentation on leveraging federal funds to achieve academic goals. And then he talked about U-Grade, adeptly moderating district leadership workshop based on the challenges facing districts with demographics similar to ours. So all in all, he did share with us. He shared with me and Mark what the CUBE agenda was this year, and I know we were all happy to see that it changed greatly. So thank you so much for the update, Mr. Jolly. Do you want to say anything briefly?
I appreciate the opportunity to go. And I went to a lot of things that Mr. Roberts and Freeman went to, but our presentation was about leveraging achieve academic goals. Basically, I told our story of what we've done throughout COVID. Also went to one, Miss Roberts went to Omaha, Nebraska, return to learn Spanish. It was very revealing how much more we did than they did. I mean, just listen to their presentation. You know, we fed the kids earlier. We made sure the kid had a computer. The hotspots, we addressed things in a more efficient fashion. I mean, they had a great presentation, but it just showed how detailed our plan was and how we executed. But they're a lot bigger than us, so it's a lot easier for us to move than a bigger district like that. But it was encouraging to hear how our plan was more detailed and the things we did. Also, I did leave early, so I left early on Saturday, so I did not attend Saturday. May Jameson was there. It was a great presentation for her. And she was talking about her journey as a child. And, you know, people told her she could never be a scientist. You know, how she has dedicated her whole life to proving those naysayers, those teachers in the school who really doubted her. And then we had Mr. Gallen, the chair. He came out to Jay-Z song and was very, he was engaged. You know, he said education is a complex sport, and he really charged board members to make a difference in it. And he showed a lot of things he did to make a difference in his community. He challenged the board to do that. Some other sessions I went to, creating, what is it called? It was for the cultural care and inclusive environment where all students learn. That was more about special ed, making sure that special ed kids were met. So I thought it was a lot of people more than I anticipated.
Oh, really?
The safety protocol in the hotel, people had to wear masks. The checking in I thought was good, and that's what we were taking our idea from Dr. Reynolds there. How you have to go to a room and you have to prove that you have your credentials. And when your credentials there is your vaccination card and your negative test. And it's online, so I think Dr. Reynolds will be talking to HBC to see how we can do that so everybody come in and follow it. Because it's an app on your phone that you carry with you. So it was a great program. And I thought that it was encouraging.
Thank you. And so much that's to be here too, because we did hear from others that you guys did an amazing job. So thank you for representing our district in such a mighty way. Next on the agenda and under the business, we added item 7.1, just to provide our director with update on who's going to attend the 2022 NSBA conference. But I'm going to ask this question before we put names in the hat. Do we need to wait to see what OSBA is going to do? Because attending it as a member is one cost. Attending as non-members is a significantly different cost. So, Dr. Wright, it says October 27th or
21st.
Tomorrow.
27th. Early registration starts October 21st, and the registration opens as a whole October 27th. How soon do you think we'll hear what OSB is going to do?
You know what?
I don't know if Dr. I talked to Rick Lewis yet. Have you talked to Rick?
Another thought is, are they going to honor it?
We still can go.
You know, so I mean, we may need to reach out to OSBA and NSBA and ask them, hey, you've got NSBA, you guys have states that associations that are dropping off. Are you going to refund us all of our money if our association drops out?
Well, there is a they normally do in mouse print have a refund clause. They do. We've had to pull out before we weren't able to attend. But
Different circumstances, though, yeah.
But the cutoff is the end of January, Madam Chair.
This is pre-COVID. We had somebody who didn't attend that pulled out at
Barbara.
the date.
Right.
So if you pull out, you pull out. It's in the
No,
But the
you're
important
fine.
question, we do need to know what the state is going to do. Because I know the prices will change significantly. For me, it's not so much if we pull out what they honor. For me, it is if we pay whatever the cost is, Ohio pulls out and they say, well, Ohio, you aren't members anymore. You still have to pay blah, blah, blah. So my question is, do they honor what the early registration is, whether we're in or out as a state? That is the critical question.
That's a good question.
So if we can find that out, Dr. Ron, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know where NSBA and OSBA and the United States are in their conversations with NSBA on the status.
Madam Chair, the status is they're upset with NSBA leadership.
Understood,
Okay.
totally understand that, but we don't know what status Ohio, Illinois, Tennessee, what these other states are. Are they gonna pull out and so win? So for us,
I got
we
you.
can find out if there's any contention about what's going on. What is NSBA going to do with us if we pay early registration? Will they honor the cost, the price that we pay now, or will they make us pay more if Ohio steps out for it?
I can get that answer for you by tomorrow.
Well, I think we
Dr. Rock needs to get.
Oh, okay.
We need it in writing. Yeah, no, we need it in writing, so I agree.
So Dr. Rock needs to get it, so we have it documented.
So we pay for membership individually in the district. So,
NSBA.
yeah.
So if you could just get those questions asked, that would be awesome.
So Dr. Rock, we can pay just as a district outside of the association?
We do that now.
We do that.
And so we're members, so that's why I see your question though, and it's a good question, so we're trying to figure it out.
So we don't necessarily have to go through Ohio then.
Yeah, we don't go through Ohio to give, we pay the dues.
Oh,
It's something like $700
Right, but will that shift if
Yeah.
Ohio pulls out? Ohio comes in as a state, so that's a big volume. We pull OSB out, there's gonna be some districts that'll come out with OSBA, so then what happens to those costs?
it's probably discounted
Yes,
because of so many,
because of
yeah.
the volume.
All right.
So that's why I was trying to get us to,
We'll reach out and we'll find out.
okay, thank you so much. We do have one more item on the agenda, and I'm hoping we can move in and out quickly. We need a motion. I'm so sorry, I skipped. Dr. Rocky, we have any correspondence?
No.
And Mr. Jolly, any additional announcements beyond?
No, not that.
Is the football team playing tomorrow?
Football team is playing Friday at 7 o'clock Friday against Central Capital.
I gotta look in there. Okay.
Now, if we can have a motion on the floor to approve item 10.1, we need to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept item 10.1 to enter into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Can I get a second?
I'll second. Sorry.
So at this point in time, we are going to go into executive session